Putin is different depending on interests of which people to represent. He is very good for rich businessmen and bad for working people. I, namely, do not support Putin totally, but I admit that his foreign politic is quite clever.
I can't talk for all the people of the Crimea, but I love Mr. Putin.
So it was very good for us, this referendum, and it is very good that we are in Russia. And we love our president.
That Putin now is pretty good president for Russian Federation, and many people support him. Therefore, I think that if people support President Putin, maybe he's a really good president.
I'm Regis Tremblay. From October 12th to November 1st, 2016, I visited Russia because I had to determine for myself what Russia and the Russian people were really like. I have long disbelieved the propaganda, Russophobia, and demonization of Russia and President Putin. So to finish my feature documentary, 30 Seconds to Midnight, I just had to go to Russia. Before I left home, many friends and family cautioned me to be careful over there. Fact of the matter is, Russia is safer than New York City. There are no active duty military patrolling with AK-47s as their counterparts in America do with M16s. The local police do not even carry weapons. This short film will serve as a counter-narrative to the lies and demonization of all things Russian. What I learned in 3 weeks in Russia and the Crimea is that the Russians are just like us. They love their families and their children. They love their country, and they all hope for a future that is peaceful. No one wants war. Believe it or not, they all want to be friends with Americans. Entering Russia and going through passport control was quick and easy. No questions asked. Traveling in Russia, whether by high-speed train or plane, is safe and easy, and I was free to go wherever I wanted without supervision or a state agent following me. I even learned that Russia has a constitution. Russians also have freedom of speech and the right to organize, march, and protest. I even attended a vigil with some communist friends that has been going on for 25 years. It ends with a march to Red Square to lay red carnations at Lenin's tomb. Moscow, arguably, is the most incredible, vibrant, and interesting city in the world. It combines ultra-modern high-rises, malls, hotels, and restaurants with Soviet-era housing projects. Red Square and the Kremlin are the epicenter of the Russian Federation. On one side of Red Square is an amazing shopping mall, and on the other is the Kremlin, the seat of the Russian Federation and State Duma. A city of some 17 million people, Moscow is a busy place, day and night. The main boulevards are wide and filled with cars, buses, and trolleys. Old folks and women and young people are out alone at 11 p.m., taking the metro, out shopping, and going about their lives without fear. I was surprised to learn that Russia is now a capitalist country, and the proof can be seen everywhere. Communism and socialism are things that went away with the fall of the Soviet Union in 1991. Since that time, the Russian economy has risen from the ashes, and one couldn't tell from daily life that the US-EU sanctions were having any effect at all. Built during the Soviet era, the Moscow Metro is modern and adorned with the most incredible art. Every station is different, and it is spotless. Not a cigarette butt or piece of trash anywhere. These trains are fast, and you rarely have to wait more than a couple of minutes for the next one to arrive. I asked many questions of the many people I met. Their answers may surprise you. So, is Putin a dictator?
In some sense, yes, and in some sense, no.
I would never comment on that. Not because I'm afraid, but because I'm very confused about the situation, and I do not think that he is in any ways a leader of the Russian people, and I do not think that he is ever going to be a leader in the world. This is a sad and temporary event in the Russian history. I think that many things that he does actually contradict his words, to say the least.
So, do you think he's been good for Russia and Russian people?
Definitely not.
It is not Putin and it is not Obama who decide to which direction the country must go. The elite decide. That's why the attempts to demonize Putin now is profitable only for one of the part of presidential election.
Your media, they've done a great job in demonizing Putin, and I do believe that in the United States the whole mood is not only anti-Putin, but it has turned into being anti-Russian. I mean, with this hate of everything Russian and everything else. But I do believe it's just the way of diverting everyone's attention from the problems within your own country by blaming Mr. Putin for everything that happens, even for the weather. My subjective viewpoint, if we look objectively, we can say that when he became the president of Russian Federation back in the year 2000, Russia was the country no one actually thought of seriously in the whole world, with only one superpower present at that time, and that being the United States of America. And no matter how we look at the situation, we can say that Mr. Putin has changed that. at least the world now seems close to being bipolar than it has ever been since the time of the Cold War. And this is due to Mr. President Putin. He has managed to awaken this feeling of national pride and patriotism in people.
He does right things, like returning Crimea where it belongs historically. Everybody supports him. His rating skyrockets at this time. But when he joins the WTO or appoints certain people in the government that carry out wrong economic policy, then of course it undermines his rating.
I wouldn't say that he is ideal, but I like Putin. I think that Putin, in fact, contributed a lot into gathering Russia together, because from Yeltsin, who is quite popular in the West, Russia was very weak and, let's say, not very respectful, I would say like this. Now, I think due to Putin, Russia is becoming stronger, and you can see this.
Are you concerned about war with America, possibly a nuclear war?
Yes, I am, of course. I am concerned. No war, neither general war or ordinary war, neither nor nuclear war in particular.
Not very good, I would say.
You don't think it will escalate into nuclear war?
No, I don't. Well, I mean, there is a chance, possibly, but I think that the distance between shooting down a Russian or an American airplane in an accident in Syria, which may happen, and this is quite clear that this may happen, will not lead automatically to anything like that.
I'm afraid, yes, there is a very strong possibility of occasional contact, because the concentration of military presence is growing, and eventually something may happen, like two planes may collide, or somebody will make a mistake, and it will trigger the chain reaction that will be difficult, if at all possible, to stop.
Do you think that even could lead to nuclear war?
I'm afraid it may, and from what I read and hear, I mean, very serious thinkers and analysts are afraid that it may lead to a nuclear war. A nuclear war has no winners. It will be radioactive ash after that, that's it.
Recently, it was reported in America that President Putin ordered 40 million Russians to take civil defense actions because of the threat of nuclear war. You're laughing.
It's the same sort of lies America is producing many years, starting from its foundation. No one knows about such things here in Moscow, in country itself.
Is it true that President Putin ordered 40 million Russians to prepare for war in underground bomb shelters?
I haven't received such an order, neither from Putin nor from anybody else. And I regard that unknown person who initiated such an absolute fake, as surely a very foolish person.
Recently, it was reported in United States media that President Putin had ordered civil defense exercises for 40 million Russian people to prepare for nuclear war. Is that true? Do you know of that?
I was in St. Petersburg those days, and I walked in the center of the city quite actively, and I saw not even a single trace of such exercises. People were walking carelessly, all the shops were open, really not a single trace. I would have known, and my friends would have told me nothing, not a single sign.
So it's a Western media fabrication or fabrication of the United States government.
It may be. If there were any exercises, at least nobody knows about them. I don't know, but definitely not 40 million. I mean, it would be impossible to hide. And there would be some reflection in the media, not a single article.
I believe that it is American leaders who are guilty in it. It is internal and private right of Syrian people to decide which president to have and how to live in their country. Yet some Americans claim the current Syrian president to be bad and demand to substitute him with another one. The only reason to raise the question is that those Americans do not like a particular person. Thus, the war in Syria is the crime of American interference. The Syrian people support their current president in spite of what Americans think about him.
As a result of foreign intervention into Syria, it has tremendous problems now. Russia was invited to Syria by a legitimate government, by a legitimate president, according to the agreement, in order to help to solve internal problems, while other forces came there illegitimately, like, for instance, NATO.
And do you think Russia should be in Syria defending Syrian people and President Assad?
Yes, it's our last friend in the Middle East. We should not give up Libya, but President Medvedev, he was a president of Russia at the times. He allowed Americans and Frenchmen to destroy Libya and to kill Gaddafi. Understand that those Islamists who are now waging a war in Syria will come to Russia as a next step, at Caucasus and at central Russia as well, if we do not stop them there.
And again, I'm not the one to talk about politics, but what I believe is that Russians came there having been invited, and the Americans came there without any invitation, without being asked.
Many people in America think that gay and lesbian people are arrested in Russia. Is that true?
No, it is a nonsense.
Is gay marriage permitted in Russia?
According to present law, none of marriages between male or between only female are valid. But it is not a reason for anybody to be arrested.
I have a friend who belongs to this sexual minority, and his opinion is that this is a very intimate thing between two people who love each other, whether it's between men or between women, and to display their relations in public is like having an intercourse in public, or like loudly farting in polite, decent society. I think that it's not an issue at all, because it's alien to Russian culture historically. If some people like to do that, who will prohibit them to do that? If they do it, it's up to them. If they like to display, like in the West, well, that's something else. And the attitude, the public attitude, the majority doesn't like it, really. As for prohibitions, like persecutions, they were under Stalin and Khrushchev, but nobody cares about that anymore. Only people don't like them to have gay parades and
Public displays.
public
of
displays.
affection.
Yes, yes.
So there is no law against homosexuality in Russia.
Not that I know of. You see, I don't have a personal experience. I just don't belong to this minority. But as far as I know, no, I haven't read any stories of persecution.
All of my American friends are very nice people, and I wouldn't dare to judge about the American people on the whole, but given the present situation with the elections, with the presidential elections, I think that American people on the whole must be somehow disillusioned with the American system, because this funny, to say the least, situation with Trump versus Clinton, where both are bad, obviously, and there are not very many people who will really, I think so, who will really vote for Trump because Trump is the best candidate on earth, or who would vote for Clinton because she is the best candidate on earth. They are choosing between two evils, and this is an indication of the fact that something is going wrong, that somehow America is disillusioned, American people are disillusioned with the political system. I wouldn't say more, but I think this is a very, very dangerous indication of something going on. If I were an American citizen right now and I had to vote, I wouldn't really, I cannot make a choice.
You wouldn't vote.
This is the choice, as you know. Not voting is a choice.
If you had your choice, who would you prefer to see become president? And knowing that you personally were an interpreter for Hillary Clinton several years ago.
I wouldn't vote for her.
So does that mean you prefer Donald Trump?
That doesn't mean that I prefer him, but are there any other options? The definite thing about it is that I wouldn't vote for Hillary.
What would you like American people to know?
I've read somewhere this phrase that there are three sides to every story: yours, theirs, and the truth. So the truth about what is happening now in Russia, well, is definitely not your side of the story, because, well, your propaganda is brainwashing all the American people about what happened in the Crimea back in 2014 and what is happening now. People are happy here being part of Russia. People made their own choice and are happy living with that, despite the difficulties that have come along the way as well. And we are people like people everywhere else in the world, with our own hopes, with our own fears, with our own dreams. We are not the demons, as somehow the American media have made us look, judging by Mr. Putin. And he's not that bad. He's not the one to be blamed for the weather, especially.
There's spread an idea in American mass media that Russians hate America and the Americans. I am a Russian. I do not hate America. I do not hate American people. I hate American way of life, which is imposed all over the world.
Russian people have always liked American people. Even in the Soviet Union, when there was a strong propaganda, not against American people, never, but against the system, the capitalist system. Even then, people were very curious about America, very, very sympathetic. American movies were very popular. And Russian people read probably more American writers than Americans themselves. And that's not an exaggeration. You can test and you will see. Now, Russian people still are very positive about Americans, but quite afraid of American policy.
Tanya, what would you like to tell the American people?
Well, I've been to the United States several times, and this is a great country. And Americans are great people, very generous. They love their country, they love sports, they love other people. So, and they have a lot to share and to teach other world. But dear friends, we are also a great country. And we're also proud of our history, heritage. So we know better what is better for us. We know better in which country to live and which choice to make. So please do respect our choice. And probably if you would like further to improve life all over the world, well, maybe start first in the United States and then go to other countries.
I traveled by high-speed rail to St. Petersburg after 10 days in Moscow. The trains are sleek, modern, and more comfortable than flying, and they're fast. There were 1,000 passengers on the train I was on, and there are several trains each day going to and from Moscow and St. Petersburg. St. Petersburg is distinctly different from Moscow. It is referred to as the Venice of the North because of all the canals that crisscross this city of nearly 5 million people. There are 325 bridges within the city limits of St. Petersburg alone. The architecture and design of St. Petersburg, formerly Leningrad, is amazing. Many will recall the siege of Leningrad during World War II, when the city was surrounded and bombarded daily by the German army. Over 1 million civilians died during the bitter winter, and they are buried in 4 mass graves. After 5 days in St. Petersburg, I flew to the Crimea. My primary reason for going to the Crimea was to learn the truth about what really happened with the return to Russia in March of 2014. The US narrative is blatantly false, insisting that Russia invaded and annexed the Crimea. But the fact is, the people of Crimea overwhelmingly approved of the return to Russia by more than 94%. Crimea is vastly different from Moscow and St. Petersburg. Since it was handed over to the Ukraine in 1951 by Nikita Khrushchev, it has been neglected. Nevertheless, the countryside, mountains, and coast are spectacularly beautiful. Though not as modern looking as Moscow, there is public transportation, Wi-Fi everywhere, and everyone has a smartphone. There's a mixture of late model vehicles and old Soviet-era automobiles. The churches and monuments are breathtakingly beautiful and everywhere. It will come as a big surprise to most Americans and Europeans to learn that Russia is a very Christian country, where other religions are also accepted and tolerated, including Islam. In fact, Russia is a classic example of diversity with over 185 ethnic groups designated as nationalities. Yalta, where FDR, Stalin, and Churchill met in 1945, overlooks the Black Sea, affording magnificent views of the city, the port, and the mountains. Crimea has traditionally been a tourist destination, not only for Russians, but Europeans as well. However, because of the sanctions imposed on Crimea by America and the EU, tourism and money exchanges have ended. Ironically, the sanctions have had just the opposite effect on Crimea. Russian tourists have been flocking there and filling hotels and resorts to near capacity, and the local economy is fast regaining strength as the people are returning to sustainable living conditions.
So we were very cautious, we thinking ahead how the world would see our steps. So we collected all deputies and we voted for a new mayor of Sevastopol. All his life he was pro-Russian. He was Russian, and he did a lot for Sevastopol.
So after you elected the new mayor, who was Russian, pro-Russian, what happened next?
Next, we were expecting other cities. What would they say? The most important, Simferopol,
other cities.
Yalta is very commercial, we didn't expect much from Yalta, but there is a hero city like Sevastopol, Kerch and Feodosia, they supported immediately. And we were waiting what Simferopol would say, because we knew that there are some radical leaders among Tatars, and we were afraid of a new fire from their side. And we were, when Simferopol said yes for Russia, and a lot of people again came to the central square of Simferopol, to rise everybody, to say yes Russia and no Ukraine.
So you had massive demonstrations.
Massive.
In both places,
Simferopol, Kerch, Feodosia, Yevpatoria, almost every city, every village, probably except Tatar villages.
Yeah.
It was very quiet in Tatar villages. They were waiting orders.
So, your mayor started organizing this referendum.
Yes.
It was not Moscow.
No, it was not Moscow. Simferopol and Sevastopol, two cities.
It came time for the referendum.
Yes.
Everybody in Crimea knew that they would have an opportunity to vote.
Yes, and it
What
was,
happened?
you know, it was a big holiday for us first, that between our uprising, okay, and referendum, there was no blood, no shooting. You know, it was, everything was peaceful. The day of referendum, there were so many people in our main square. There were a lot of television screens, you know, in the square, and people could see how
early
it
in
was
the morning.
from early morning till 10 evening. At 10 evening we learned the result of referendum, and it was shocking, you know, in a good way, shocking. More than 97% people said yes to Russia.
97%.
97. And after referendum, the new government of the Crimean Republic applied, you know, to be in Russia officially. They asked President Putin, you know, to accept the result of referendum. And Putin says yes. And we were so happy. It was a big holiday. And it was, I think, next day after referendum. Yeah, he says.
The next
yes.
day,
Next day.
President Putin said yes.
Yes.
And he signed a document.
He signed documents.
Crimea now is back, officially, legally, part of Russian Federation.
Yes, it's true. Yeah, we are officially and legally back to Russia.
And we have a Russian passport.
So American people can understand. President Putin, Russian military did not interfere with this referendum.
No, everything began with people, you know. People went out, they didn't know what to do, how to come back to Russia and what to do, but there were always some clever people around, and they organized it. Local people,
But
Sevastopol people, not Putin, no militaries, no.
I hope this short film will help to open the eyes and minds of Westerners, and I hope people will share it with others, especially in these days when President Putin and everything Russian is being demonized, and especially since the threat of nuclear war is greater now than during the Cold War. It is clear to me now that we have more in common with each other than we do with the politicians and governments that do not represent us. As you have seen, Russia is a large, multicultural, and diverse country, and the Russian people are very much like any of us. They love their families, and they want nothing more than a peaceful and prosperous future for themselves and their children. For more in-depth reports from my 3 weeks in Russia, including many interviews with Russian people, you can visit my webpage at www.registremblay.com.
Американский режиссер Риджис Тремблей снимает документальный фильм «30 секунд до...»
Вы знаете, что в Америке сейчас идет очень большая, очень негативная пропаганда. И мы слышим очень много негативных вещей. Потом этот фрагмент я включу в общий фильм «30 секунд до полуночи».
Suis Russia.